Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, and it's considered a social planet that takes 12 years to move through all the zodiac signs. So it spends about 1 year in each zodiac sign. Within that 12-month year, it goes retrograde for about 4 months, often creating a Jupiter theme for that year, for each of us and collectively. Remember that astrology is what we live. It's how we grow and evolve. And its movements, all its cycles are progressive and progressive inside you and in the collective. So for example, if it takes 12 years for Jupiter to go through all the zodiac signs, you personally will experience a Jupiter return every 12 years. Or another way to say that is every 12 years, Jupiter returns to the zodiac sign and the house it was in when you were born. Thus, when you're 12 years old, 24 years old, 36 years old, 48 years old, etc., you will have a Jupiter return. How do you understand what that means? You go find Jupiter in your birth chart, what house it's in, and then the sign that rules that house. And that will be the Jupiter lesson through the energies and the voice of that zodiac sign in that house that you will be expanding on, growing on from 12 years old to 24 years old to 36 years old. So you can look back and see what you learned every time, every 12 years regarding that particular house and zodiac sign. I'll give you an example. Here is a birth chart. The first house is about 9 o'clock where the AS and the blue arrow sign is. That first house for this person is ruled by Taurus. That little green sign with the horns is a Taurus symbol. Excuse me. The planets are in the inner circle, and Jupiter's symbol looks like the little number 4, which you see not far from the blue arrow. Jupiter then is in this person's first house and partly in their second house, but it's mostly in the first house. The first house rules your identity, your personality, your ego, who you are in this incarnation and in this body, and who you show the world, how you express yourself in the world. For this person, that would be through the energies of Taurus. So that every 12 years, so when you're 12 years old, 0 to 12 years old, you've done a lot of growing and expanding in your identity, in your personality. And then when you go from 12 to 24, you again grow a lot and change in your identity, who you are, who you think you are, who you thought you were. And why am I focused on identity and personality? Because this is the first house. This is the energies of the first house. So every 12 years, this person could look back and see how they have grown and expanded, brought their personality and their ego to the higher philosophy, the higher vibrations. Again, all of those are Jupiter energies. So you could find your birth chart that you were shown how to print out. You find the house that Jupiter is in, and then you learn about the expressions of that zodiac sign on the stage of that house. And then Jupiter's going to want to expand that to your higher philosophies, a higher vibration, connecting with the collective. And how do you interact with the collective? Because that's Jupiter's a social planet. So with Saturn, it's always going to want to know what you're doing, expanding personally, and relate that to the collective. Take a breath, and let's step back for a moment and talk about how our level of consciousness is rising right now in these times. It's amping up, if you will. And to think about how that's happening, about what is consciousness, it's based on two axes, like an X and Y diagram, but it's running through your body. So if I want you to think about it, if you put your arms out and you stand up, and if the vertical axis is is your empowerment. So from your feet all the way up through your legs, through your heart, to your head is empowerment. For this illustration, if you're down there by your feet, you're less empowered. And the more you rise up to meet your soul esteem, if you will, you're more empowered. And as you put your hands out, if you look to your left, this horizontal axis is your awareness. And for this exercise, looking out to your left, you're unaware. And as you move up your left arm through your heart and your chest out to your right arm, looking at your right arm, that is fully aware. So if you were to think of your body in 4 quadrants, looking out over your right shoulder, where your head is and your right arm is you're most empowered and you're mostly aware. That is what consciousness is, when you're aware and you're empowered. Now you can think about what it would be like to be aware, empowered, but unaware, looking out over your left arm, or unempowered and aware, or unempowered and unaware. But we're really looking at consciousness. We're really ramping up this 4th quadrant, if you will, of your empowerment, personally, spiritually, emotionally, and your awareness of that you're a multidimensional creature, if you will. So how does that really relate to astrology? And I'll come back to Jupiter then, because Jupiter really is about expanding our awareness and expanding our empowerment. So astrology is cosmic, and it wants us to see things through different lenses now. It wants us to see cosmically. What does that mean? Seeing what's bigger than us. What is bigger than us, but is also holding us? That isn't how we've been seeing the past 2,000 years. It wants us to see intuitively, to see with different eyes than the mind. That doesn't mean we don't see with the mind, but the mind isn't the driver anymore. We see with our intuition and all these other senses that we have. It wants us to see spherically, to see this multidimensionality and interconnectedness. We are not single beings operating in a vacuum. We are interconnected with every other living thing on planet Earth and in the cosmos, everything. And we can see things at multidimensionals. You can touch and feel things, but you can also intuit things and sense things now. It's also the land of both and now. It's not either or. We only see with the mind. We can't see with our intuition. It's both and. All of this both andness. And then finally, what's coming online now, all of these things are coming online more powerfully now, available to us, is that we are co-creators, absolutely, but we're co-creating in a karmic hologram with everybody else. So all of Earth is karmically interconnected. What does that mean? In this astrology language, karma is not good or bad, right or wrong. Karma is simply the word that says, for everything we do, every choice and action we take, there's a consequence. That consequence may be harmful, helpful, good, bad. That's a human label. This is just energetically saying, look, everything that everybody does, that a plant makes, a tree makes, a wolf makes, a bear makes, a fish makes, a microorganism, a virus makes, that you make, that your ancestors made, that your siblings make, that our national neighbors and the nations next to us make, it's all connected. And we've been living this karmic hologram, like we are all waking up to the fact we cannot make some choices anymore in a vacuum. We're aware now that all these choices and pressures affect all of us. So astrology and these times we're in is amping all of these things up, these perceptions, and they all really have a lot to do with Jupiter, because as you'll see, Jupiter's energies are about all of getting bigger, expanding. The Earth's co-creative karmic grid then is holistic. It is all connected. And we can experience this. It's built out of all these archetypal patterns, these archetypal architecture that include all of these architectural patterns like time, cycles of time, creative laws, and survival dynamics, and the mystical laws of holism. So all of the cycles I'm talking about here, the meta cycles that Jupiter's in Taurus, that we're in the age of Aquarius, that that Venus went retrograde into Leo. All of these meta cycles, all the way down from the big to the small, are all connected from this big to the small. So the seeds that you plant, who you are and the gifts you give, are planted in this collective soil, this karma that's in motion out there on the external. And that's how, again, Jupiter and Saturn connect us, the internal growth, the internal things to the collective, our personal to the social. So this big to the small, our seeds are only able to grow in the richness and the fertileness of the soil they're planted in this karmic hologram they're planted in. I may want to be love and peace and be that, but I'm planting that in potentially soils that really aren't fertile to grow that seed, if you will. So there's this, what's outside is inside, what's inside is out there. So a big question when we reflect back on 2023 is what's in our current karmic field. If we can name it, then we can explore how it's acting out in us as well as the collective. So for example, toxic patriarchy is still out there. Pressures, I call these all pressures that are showing us what is ready to evolve. Climate change, mass pollution, political forces and polarization, wars, technical and medical advances, gross inequities and inequalities. These are all the social karma that's out there. And it happens at a cosmic level, galactical level, a global level, at the earth level, at your nation, your country, your state. And it plays out in things that we label like racism, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, women's rights, abortion rights, radical fundamentalism, etc. And all of that is in you in some way, as well as you are in it. And therefore, your choices, every thought you have, every action you take, everything you say is all part of an individual and a collective consequence balance sheet. This includes, again, your ancestors and your family, etc. And so again, where Jupiter, this is important because where Jupiter and Saturn are, they're social planets and they affect this. And so when they are active, we want to know what they're doing because that's the call and response. That's the pressures we're experiencing that we're being asked to respond to. So since astrology and life is cyclical, it's not linear, it's cyclical. It's right. It's all these cycles of patterns and times. It's really helpful when we're looking back at last year, where was Jupiter, to see where Jupiter was before it came into what it came into 2023, because this is a truth for everybody. Whatever we didn't or did evolve, expand, or do in the previous cycle will inform the potentiality of what we could do in this current cycle. So wherever Jupiter was in 2022, and whatever we were able to answer in that call and response and expand is going to tell us what we were able to potentially achieve in 2023 and continue on in 2024. So Jupiter moved. Jupiter was in Pisces at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. And then it moved through Aries briefly. And then it spent the rest of the year in Taurus. So we want to understand Jupiter as an archetypal energy. What is it asking us to do? And it's going to tell us that through the energies and characteristics of Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. This is the sequence of development to help us understand how over the past 2 years we've developed and the conversations that we've had with ourselves, with the collective. So again, let me express this in 2022, Jupiter transited Pisces. Well, what is Pisces about? That's spirituality, our intuition, our imagination, our ability to vision and dream, the mystical, the unknown. So when Jupiter is in Pisces, it's going to be expanding all those things. And when Jupiter goes retrograde in Pisces, it will bring up things from our unconscious that are ready to be conscious around those things. So you could think of it as your shadow energies. Where are you not connected to spirit? Where were you not using your imagination and stuck so that you couldn't vision and dream what's possible? Where were you not having a relationship with your spiritual guides and the mystical, and you're down on this dense, vibrating plane that doesn't allow for that higher vibration? When Jupiter dipped into Aries, Aries is about leadership. How are we leading? How were we leading with this bigger collective, interpersonal and collective connection in mind? Where were we still, we didn't do very well in this little dip, stuck in individualism and isolation, and that I'm in control, if you will. And that's when Jupiter was in Aries, that's when Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, astrology isn't predictive, like it wouldn't predict that, but it would tell us the energies are there for these things to be possible. While we were in the thrust of COVID exposed and mapped out our vulnerabilities, specifically where we were not all one. Jupiter's trying to move us to this one consciousness, to live this one consciousness. And you all remember what happened in COVID. We couldn't even agree on how to mask or shut down. We couldn't get on one consciousness on how to serve the whole. So the ask is, can something better show up in 2023, in 2024, in you and in the world? That's the call. So as Jupiter then moves to Taurus, that's what we'll talk more about here in this call. The call and response keeps illuminating our need to grow bigger than our smaller nature, to grow bigger than our idea that we are independent and alone and not connected, to grow bigger than the belief that we are actually in control when we're not, to grow bigger than this idea of our separation is a lie. We really are all connected, and our choices do affect each other. So solidarity and coming together, it's not about all being the same. It's about bringing our differences together to serve the whole, so that everyone arrives on the ship, if you will. How can we, again, perceive bigger than what's us, what's holding us? How can we see with different eyes? How can we see multidimensionally? And how can we actually live with an awareness that we're karmically interconnected? We would make very different choices if we really embraced this truth. So how have you shifted your perceptions from smaller to bigger in the last year? How have you shifted your mind to include intuition and being connected with all and multidimensionality and both and? How have you shifted to see choices big and small all have consequences, yours and everyone else's, that affect us all? This inquiry is not to judge or shame you. It's to observe and notice where you are. What are your coordinates? As this evolution is happening, with or without you, where are you in it? Are you holding on to staying in control and independent, and the belief that you think you're in control and that you're not connected to everybody else? Or how have you moved along that continuum? So the journal prompts will take you down two primary paths. It'll help you look at your own personal relationship with Jupiter and Taurus through your own birth chart. And since Taurus is related to value, self-worth, your relationship with money, your money story, and then how is that story connected to the larger story of everyone else? So that's the questions in the journal prompt. Right now, I'm going to then finish this with some energies helping you understand Jupiter a little deeper. And then the journal prompts will help you identify some dates to reflect on and what got triggered for you during those dates, and some Taurus archetypes that you can find your own coordinates in. So Jupiter is a planet that represents the function of the intuitive perceptions in our consciousness, hence all this talk about intuition. where Mercury likes to process and gather data via the mind. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's about how we're thinking and perceiving through our mind. But Jupiter doesn't care about data per se. It wants to know what the data means. It wants to know how to use the data, how it's all connected with the whole. So Jupiter symbolizes the capacity to perceive life as being symbolically infused with meaning and purpose. So Jupiter is always working this bottom line of why we're here. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose? What's the meaning, and how does it serve the whole? So you can think about 2023 and all of the events that happened, however good they were or tragic and horrific, how would them coming up, bringing our intuition to them, serve to look at them with a different kind of purpose, if you will. So in myth, Jupiter was associated with the king, the patriarch, the chief god, Zeus, the gods of thunder, learning, wisdom, higher philosophy, justice, and prophetic visions. You can also easily see how justice keeps coming up in all these pressures. In myth, it was the emergence of a new creative authority or a new pattern or a new energy that would expand our consciousness and then thus life, our social life, our personal life. So Zeus, or the mountain, is Jupiter. Like when you're on top of the mountain, you could see the holographic, the intuitive, the bigger picture. There's no limits when you're on the mountain. You can see what's possible and explore everything that you could be. So when Jupiter is direct, not retrograde, it brings us energetically in our field this perception and this felt expansion into this holographic, bigger insights, a bigger worldview, a bigger connectedness of what's happening in our own lives and in the world. And it will ask us to take a risk and shift something in our own personal life and collective for our own growth. It puts us out on our growth's edge based on that bigger perspective, that view from the mountain. It's going to ask you, Jupiter will ask you to change, to move down your destiny from this mountain view and ask you to take a risk. Now, sometimes when we do this, we realize we've climbed the wrong mountain. That's another sort of shadow journey. But Jupiter in any zodiac transit will activate the need in us to expand our perceptions and perspective, specifically from the lens of the zodiac sign it's having a conversation with. So when it was in Pisces, the beginning of 2023, it was asking us to expand our spirituality, or to see bigger, to see multidimensionally, to see intuitively, and to bring that perception back down to everyday life and see what change that could bring. When it was in Aries and retrograde, it was showing us where our leadership was not, thinking of the whole, trying to, Russia invading Ukraine is a great example of that, of Russia thinking it needs to control the whole world, etc. And as Jupiter then went into Taurus the rest of the year, it's showing us where we have healthy relationships and shadow relations with our own self-worth, with our worth as a planet, as a whole cosmic organism of togetherness, our worth, our relationship to money and currency and exchanges, and our self-worth. So Jupiter will always show us the seeds that we can plant within the larger active cycles that are going on that move us from the current karma, the current fate. None of us asked for the patriarchy, the climate change, etc., but it's there. That's fate. Jupiter will always show us the seeds we can plant to move that fate to destiny, to something different, something better for the whole, and help us compost and heal the soil so that the seeds we plant in the soil create different karma, different conditions. So Jupiter will facilitate a force so we can pivot from where we are to something new and have new experiences. New actions create new consequences, new karma. Pretty powerful, pretty powerful. That's why we pay attention to where Jupiter is. And why would you want that? Because you and everything you do, and then build that out to your family, to your work, to your neighborhood, to your nation, is in service of these larger metacycles, this larger evolution, in service of us all actually living and moving towards living a one consciousness, coming back to our co-creative matrix of holism. This is the larger view. So Jupiter is an ally that's asking you to get ready to go for the dream as you move into action. And anytime you take a risk, like Jupiter will ask you to do, the little parts of you will pop up. The parts of you that have worked very, very hard to keep you safe, to keep you in your comfort zone, to keep you not taking any risks, to keep you be comfortable. But you didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to evolve, to grow. So when you take a risk, it's all those voices that come up and tell you why that might be stupid. You're skeptic. Why are you doing that? What will people say? These are your little me, your little egos, and this is totally normal. The little me part of you is your inner child who has left breadcrumbs along your life, waiting for you to turn around, pick those breadcrumbs up, heal what needs to heal, gather ideas and inspirations that are ready for you to activate right here and now, and let all the rest go. Literally, let it go. Put it in a suitcase and leave it in the attic. Quit trying to drag it over the threshold to the new. So again, think of little me as your ego, your human mind, your heart and form that has limitations and is in this earth school. And big me is your higher self, your best self, the part of you that your soul knows is bigger than anything on earth school. It knows that your self-worth is never on the table, ever, even though your little me will think that. It's the part of you, the big me is a part of you that greets your loved ones when you transition in the heavens, and that you merge again with when you transition from this earth school. Big me is the part of you that knows where you've been, why you are here on earth, and where you're going. And as Jupiter moves through Taurus in 2023 and into 2024, it's going to go retrograde. It's been retrograde from May. Let's see. It will go retrograde 4 months. So Jupiter is in Taurus from May 16th, 2023 to May 25th, 2024, which happens to be my birthday. But it'll go retrograde for 4 months within that. And that's when the shadow triggers will come up. So for everyone exploring Jupiter's role expressed through Taurus, looking for what it's asking you to take risk, what's the call and response for you to grow into your destiny, and connect that to in service to the world and the collective. That is what's moving through you. So this is the more personal view of Jupiter moving through Taurus, which the journal prompts will take you through. Jupiter is your, hey, let's go for it energy. Let's go for it with joy and love and wonder. It takes place and it moves the second chakra, if you know chakras, of how the flow of emotions and sexual energy, states of joy and expansion. So if you're having issues in your second chakra, they're absolutely probably activated from Jupiter. So wherever Jupiter is in your birth chart, that is what you're a teacher of. So in the chart I gave you an example of, it would be you're a teacher of expansive, of how to be in your identity and in your ego in the highest form in the service of all. So wherever Jupiter is in your birth chart, in that zodiac sign, and in that house, that area of life, that's what you're here to be a teacher of. And Jupiter is the planet of feeling. Jupiter is I feel, fill in the blank. So please explore the prompts, the ones in the document, Focus on the ones that resonate, leave the ones that don't. You don't have to do all of them. Trust, because not all the questions will resonate with you. This is not a homework assignment to be graded. This is you seeing you finding your coordinates on your own soul's path. When you get to the journal prompts, it will give you specific dates of when Jupiter went through these signs, and you can reflect on your life and what was happening through that expression of Jupiter in Pisces, Jupiter in Aries, and Jupiter in Taurus at a collective and a personal level. Because remember, Jupiter is always going from the big to the small and the small to the big. Very good. And last but not least, Jupiter will trigger for you 5 different kinds of truths. This is helpful in general, but there's 4 different kinds of truths that we all experience. Personal truth is, it's true for me. I have blonde hair and I have blue eyes and you may not. So it's personal for me. I like broccoli, you may not. Relative truth is, the sun rises for me at 6 o'clock, but if I live in Hawaii, the sun will rise at a different time. It's true, the sun rises for both of us, but it's relative. Universal truth is, it's true for all of us. And that's like, universal truth would be, it's the sun rises. That's a universal truth. Time is a universal truth. Death is a universal truth. We're all going to die, but that's the realm of cosmic laws as well. That we're all worthy. If we're all here, we all matter. That's a universal truth because we're here. We don't have to do or be anything. That's a universal truth. We matter because we're here. Another universal truth is, no one is better than anybody else. We're all of value. And then there's soul contract truths. I came here to do something that you didn't come here to do. I can want to be a ballerina, but if it's not in my soul contract, I'm not going to be a professional ballerina. So a soul contract truth is related to me personally and my birth chart and why I came here. And I came here for very specific reasons and soul growth that you didn't. And so that becomes a personal truth. Why is all this important? Because you can look at all of the things as a lens on what truth is this, because we really do have this argument about my truth, what is truth, the capital T truth. But what's coming online in embodying in us is now mystical truths. We've always been one. We've always been connected. You've always mattered through all time, but it's amping up in our consciousness now in a way that we are embodying it and able to live it as a truth. We are all one, all connected, all of value in a time and place that has never been on this planet Earth before. So the mystical truths are coming online. We're connecting to them in a way that we never have before. That's that multidimensionality piece, the both and, that interconnectedness. All right, Jupiter, explore.